Hey guys, so we're here right after I just recorded the Chasm episode, and I really have to sneeze. Oh, that was a terrible intro. Anyways, let's look at our new trap. I will go ahead and upgrade that. And let's upgrade our tar. Let's also move this stuff around so it's up there. And let's go. So the next level is the crossing, and the spring traps we just unlock are actually going to be pretty useful on this map.
These rifts just keep popping up.
No matter. As more rifts appear, our powers grow. Together we will sweep the orcs aside.
Then what? We get married? Pop out a little army of War Mage babies?
I would sooner rip your beating heart from your chest.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
So, as you can see, the War Mage tries to be suave with the ladies, usually isn't. That's basically all that dialogue was. It's kind of funny. So, in this level we have the generic orc warriors, as well as both kobold runners and earth elementals. And, on top of it, these crossbow orcs. Oh, I'm sorry I'm so sniffly. So crossbow orcs are roughly, they have the same amount of health as the medium orc warriors, and they also have crossbows, and they single out and target players as well as guardians. We don't have any guardians yet, so we don't have to worry about that. But these crossbow orcs will focus us, and they do a decent amount of damage, so we want to be careful. And aside from that, not much to it. There's obviously two paths the orcs can take. There's this bridge, and there's this little ledge up there. So enemies that come from this rift, which they're going to start coming out of, are going to go across the bridge. And then the ones that are going to come out of this rift, whenever that rift opens, are going to go across the cliff. I'm sorry, I burped. So, what I like to do on this one, because there's a wall up there that we can put our arrow walls on, but there's obviously not one here in the bridge. What I like to do,
They'll never see
set
it
up some tar here, and then put down a few spring traps there. Spring traps, as you can see, you can rotate these, and the direction is important. So, if we have them facing this way, when enemies walk over that spot, they get launched that way. Potentially up onto the cliff, which we don't want. So we want them to face this way, like these are, so the orcs will get flung in that direction. Now, the earth elementals are actually too heavy to get flipped by these. There is an upgrade to where heavier enemies can get knocked over by flip traps, but not flung as far as some other enemies can go. And then, I don't have the money for it yet, but what I like to do up here is just set up normal
Now that's a sticky situation.
traps like tar, spike traps, arrow walls. So, enemies get, because if you set up flip traps down here, they're going to get knocked onto the bridge. So what I like to do is just have the enemies outright killed here, and then have most of the enemies sort of trimmed down, or not really trimmed down, what's the word I'm looking for? Thinned out down here, and then I can just deal with the heavier enemies, or the enemies that slip by. Or I also like to have the minecart going up that way, but we'll leave it down here for now, because they're not going out of this way. Now, where is the little... There it is. So we want to hit that whenever they start coming out of that other rift. And that's about it for strategy, so let's go.
Food fight!
So, quick talking point at the beginning of this video. Actually, let's deal with these guys first. So these are the crossbow orcs. They will shoot at you and do a good amount of damage. I don't want to get hit. I barely avoided that. don't want to get hit, so I'm not going to show you guys how much damage it deals, but they do a good amount of damage if they add up. There he goes. Oh. Well, I guess he, like, narrowly avoided getting flung off of that one. Watching enemies get flung with the spring traps never gets old. I kind of would just want to let them walk over it. Oh.
Nice.
So now, same wave is going to come out of this upper area now. Let's...
Sharp spikes meet tender toes.
Oh, I can't afford another.
Heads are gonna roll.
So, the talking point for this episode that I wanted to hit was I did not finish talking about the differences between the Sorceress and the War Mage in the last video. So I wanted to go over those now. These differences are... There's one trap and one weapon. But those, you don't start with those. Those are ones you buy out of the spellbook with skulls. So they're completely optional differences. But I still did want to talk about them, just so people could just like choose who they wanted to pick. I'm still really sniffly, I'm sorry.
Orc pin cushions coming right up.
Here.
Party starting, and you're all invited.
So the weapon difference is the War Mage gets a weapon called the Dwarven Hammer, which is a heavy, slow attacking melee weapon. It is very strong and does damage in a small radius in front of the War Mage, but you have to be very close. So you're gonna have to be willing to take some hits. Are they gonna... Oh. I'm surprised that first one got hit by the minecart. And then its secondary attack is like a little whirlwind style attack. The War Mage spins himself around really fast and damages every enemy that touches him. So it's a fairly strong weapon. It's just risky because you have to be very close to get any success out of it. Now, the Sorceress's equivalent of the Dwarven Hammer is a spell called the Polymorph Ring. And what it does is its primary and secondary attack both cost mana, like some spells we'll encounter later.
No.
Oh, whoops. Completely whiffed that grenade. Its primary, it shoots a projectile at an enemy that does not damage them, but will turn them into, if they get hit by it, it'll turn them into something random. Sometimes it can be a chicken, sometimes it can be like an armored ogre. So it's really just kind of gambling. If you decide to use the polymorph ring, it can be fun to use sometimes to mess around with.
That's right.
But it is a little risky to just like throw out a bunch of polymorphs at the same time. Now its secondary costs no mana, but will slow... Oh, I completely misread the map. I thought they were coming out of that way. The secondary, the Polymorph Ring, costs no mana, but will slowly drain your mana while it's active. And what it does is it actually turns the Sorceress into an ogre. Now, we haven't seen an ogre yet, and I keep misreading the map. We have not seen an ogre yet, but ogres are very big, very tanky enemies that do a lot of damage. So, it can be a lot of fun to mess around with the polymorph ring.
It's more fun when you kill them all at once.
But in general, it's not that useful. But it is definitely one of the most fun weapons.
That was fun.
So, if you're just looking to screw around and have fun, then I would definitely recommend getting the polymorph ring.
It's killing time.
Now, the last difference is there are two traps that are fundamentally the same thing, called the Healing Well for the War Mage and the Mana Well for the Sorceress. You can probably assume what those two do. The Healing Well is, both of them are wall traps that you place down, and whenever you walk near them, they either heal you or restore your mana, respectively. And they have to recharge before you can get more health or mana. Generally, I don't find these either to be amazingly useful. They do have their uses, and they can come in handy, but I probably won't be using them very much, because it's just personal preference.
This should make my point.
But they can come in handy, so don't think that's me saying that they're bad.
Let's go.
And that is all of the differences between the Sorceress and the War Mage. And actually, it's not. I lied, because I just remembered. Whenever you beat story mode on classic difficulty, you unlock a new ability for your character. And the ability you get depends on which character you play. So if you're playing as the War Mage, whenever you beat story mode on the normal difficulty, you unlock a double jump. And if you beat it as the Sorceress on normal difficulty, you unlock an ability where if you jump and then hold your jump button, you will sort of slowly glide. You obviously can't hover forever. Oh jeez. There we go. You can't hover forever, like you'll slowly fall, but it does significantly slow your fall, and you move fairly fast with the hover. So they're both kind of useful in their own way, but it's not a huge difference. Well, that is it for the crossing. Not too bad of a level. And we unlocked our first Guardian, called the Dwarf Guardian. He does melee and ranged attacks. There's 3 Guardians, one only does melee, one only does range. The Dwarf does a little bit of both. And he can be fairly useful, so we'll probably get some use out of him in the next level. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.